everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. It is Labor Day. Now, I had to chuckle yesterday because my friend Prospero on a stream last night was talking about the what do she call it? She called it the commie holiday, which I don't want to call it a commie holiday. I think it's just well, I don't know. I laughed because I said, well, isn't the real commie holiday May Day? You know, that's like really a communist holiday in most of the world. And she said, yeah, our summer is bookended by commie holidays. But yes, Donatello, it is mattress sale day in the United States, and more power to it. You know, I am a laborious person, so I am celebrating Labor Day by not working today, except on this show, which is a labor of love. But anyway, we got some random stuff to talk about, and then I'm going to go have a breakfast date with my wife, which I'm very happy about. So anyway, how about we play the intro? Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, Dawg Knight. Stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I am your host, Marty, also known as Dawg Knight on the internet. Welcome back to the Dawg Knight Channel. It is the 7th of September, 2020. It is Labor Day, that day when we all take the day off. So anyway, good, whole bunch of stuff going on over the weekend. And there's so much stuff every damn day that I can't even get to talk about it. But, I'm going to talk about a few random things today, but they're all kind of related to this. What seems to be, and someone wrote an article, the first article we're going to go over today, seems to be almost I hate using the word coup that the writer of the article uses, but it's an all-out push to kind of. They've been trying to delegitimize Trump ever since he was elected, even before he got put into office. But it's almost like this is all geared towards him, and I don't even know how to describe it. So we'll get into the articles, and I'll just do that. But just a quick programming note: at the 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Central, I also have a new video premiering today that I worked on last night. Just one of my thread reader streams. It was somebody else's words, but I thought it was poignant, so I wrote it. Made a quick video about it last night. So be look forward to that. Also, a new video coming out about at the top of the hour after the end of the show. So there you go. Anyway, what's the boomer thing going on here? What did I do that made me boomer? Did I do something wrong here? I don't know. Anyway, let's say good morning to the people in the chat who are rolling in quickly. First in the chat today was Jonas Pedersen, who gets the bell. And the bell worked. Good morning, Zero the Hero. Good morning, Donatello Slapafellow, one of my favorite names on the internet. Good morning, Purple Pill Perspective. Good morning, Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
Also, good morning to Dark Isle. CNN Sucks, the most redundant name on the internet. Also, good morning, Chi-Town J, Richo, my friend from down under, Check Your Logic, the gayest person on YouTube, not to be confused with Check Your Logic. Check Your Logic and the gayest person on YouTube. Two different names, two different people. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Anyway, also good morning to Balaam Bobby from New Mexico. Good morning to John Smith. Say hi to Elizabeth Warren for me. Good morning, Zach Osborne. Good morning, Sean D.W., Cindy Rochelle, Kessler, Gunfox61, and that looks like the entire chat for now. I'm sure. Oh, and good morning to Cynical Lindsay. People roll in and roll as they get the notifications, and we'll get it going. Anyway, something interesting that I did yesterday before I get into the show is that we drove from the Twin Cities to St. Cloud, Minnesota. And I saw, I was, it's interesting. I don't see as many political signs as I'm used to seeing. Maybe they'll start coming out more as we get closer to the election. And it's what's interesting in my suburb, which is a third ring suburb south of St. Paul. I see occasional signs, not much. There's one along the main thoroughfare near our house. There are two houses next door to each other. One of them has like 3 or 4 Democratic local politicians and a Biden sign. And right next door and they're on the fence outside the houses along the road. And then right next to that are a sign for Jason Lewis, who's running for Congress he's running for the Senate in Minnesota against Tina Smith. His sign, and then a Donald Trump sign. And so I saw those signs, and those pretty much the only signs that I really prominent around here. I see a couple Black Lives Matter signs here and there. But as I drove by that the other day, the Trump sign was laying flat on the ground. None of the other signs were bothered. The Trump was laying flat on the ground, and then someone else finally put it back up, right? Good morning, Zach Osborne, too. So I'm driving. And that's pretty much it. Not a whole lot of signs. But if you drive through Minneapolis to St. Paul, you see tons of Don and Biden signs, whatever. And you don't see Trump signs, but you see a lot of Black Lives Matter. People are, I think people in the city, even if they were to support Trump, they would fear putting up a sign because you're going to get vandalized, no doubt. So we're driving on Interstate 94 though, from the Twin Cities to St. Cloud, Minnesota. And we saw a whole bunch of Trump signs, like all these farmers putting up these big Trump signs along the freeway. And there were several billboards too. And one of them was a billboard about our governor, Tim Walz. And Tim Walz has put on this statewide mask mandate and all these very interesting, just restrictions because of the coof, and one of those signs was this one, and I found it hilarious. And let me see if I can hear it. Let's put this one up here. Governor Walz, Northern Minnesota, is trying to see things from your point of view. Needless to say, that sign is a bit controversial. And then another one, and I don't have a picture of it. I wish I would have gotten a picture while we were on the road. The other one was one that said, something to the effect of, you can't blame the governor until you walk a mile in his shoes. And the picture was of a set of clown shoes with striped socks going up. So, I got to tell you, it's interesting because northern Minnesota and St. Cloud is in central Minnesota, but central and northern Minnesota used to be such solid Democrat territory. And it's fascinating seeing, 10 years ago, if you'd have driven between the Twin Cities and St. Cloud, or let's say Obama's first term, you would have seen Obama signs all along the way. You would have seen DFL, which here it's called the Democratic Farmer Labor Party. You'd have seen their signs everywhere. Not so much anymore. It's interesting that you go driving through northern Minnesota and you see so many Trump signs and so many signs for Republicans. Now in St. Cloud, there were a lot of signs for local Democratic politicians running for state office and city office. But what was amazing is I didn't even see a lot of Biden signs around those signs either. There were a couple. There were a lot of apparently in this one area that we were in, because we were looking at some historic homes, and we went to this beautiful garden thing, which is going to be my next outro. Is not going to be my garden anymore. We went to the most beautiful gardens I've ever seen up in St. Cloud. But But yeah, you see a lot of the local politicians, you see their names all over the place, almost nary a Biden sign. So that's really strange. And, who knows, as the election closer, I'm sure there'll be more up there. We don't go to St. Cloud a lot, but anyway, that was pretty wild. Anyway, good morning, Select Boy. I see you jumped into the chat.
Yeah, boy.
Oh, that was kind of loud. I think I have my headphones up too loud, but hopefully it didn't blow your ears out. Anyway, welcome to the show. If anyone here is new, please be sure you subscribe and click that bell. Also, do me a favor, folks, while you're here, hit the share button. Share the stream out. I know I'm kind of subdued today, aren't I? Do I sound kind of subdued? That's weird. I'm projecting that myself. Anyway, share the stream out. Hit the share arrow. Share it out on your favorite social media, or you can do it on Twitter, Minds, Gab, or Parler. If you follow me there, you'll get notifications from me and not just YouTube. You won't have to wait for the YouTube notifications. Also, if you like what we do during the show, hit the like button. Hello, Midday Sin. Hit the like button, and also you can do super chats and donations through the Streamlabs link. It's showing up in the chat again. There it is. This show is sponsored by viewers like you. Support the show with your donations and have your super chats read live on the show. Just click that link that goes to pdognight.live. All right, let's get into some of the articles today. It says, because this is the article I was talking about, and it's called The Coming Coup. Now, is that hyperbolic language, or does this writer have a point? So let's get into it. Democrats are laying the groundwork for revolution right in front of our eyes. As if 2020 were not insane enough already, we now have Democrats and their ruling class masters openly talking about staging a coup. Good morning, Ronan. What's up? You might have missed it, what with the riots, lockdowns, and other daily mayhems we're forced to endure in this, the most wretched year of my lifetime, but it's happening. It started with the military brass quietly indicating that the troops should not follow a presidential order. They were bolstered by many former generals, including President Trump's own first Secretary of Defense, who stated openly what the brass would only hint at. Then, as nationwide riots really got rolling in early June, the sitting Secretary of Defense himself all but publicly told the president not to invoke the Insurrection Act. His implicit message was, Mr. President, don't tell us to do that because we won't, and you know what happens after that. Interesting. All this enthused Joe Biden, who threw subtly into the winds. The former United States Senator for 26 years and Vice President for 8 has not once, not twice, but thrice confidently asserted that the military will escort Trump from the White House with great dispatch should the president refuse to leave. Another former Vice President Al Gore publicly agreed. Hello, Maddie. How you doing? One might dismiss such comments as the ravings of a dementia patient and has-been who's never got over his own electoral loss, but before you do, consider also this. Over the summer, a story was deliberately leaked to the press of a meeting at which 100 Democratic grandees, anti-Trump former Republicans, and other ruling class apparatchiks got together on Soros's dime to game out various outcomes of the 2020 election. One such outcome was a clear Trump win. In that eventuality, former Bill Clinton White House Chief of Staff John Podesta, playing Biden, refused to concede. Pressured states that Trump won to send Democrats to the formal Electoral College vote, and trusted that the military would take care of the rest. Now that's in this war games where it was a clear Trump win. The leaked report from the exercise darkly concluded that technocratic solutions, courts, and reliance on elites observing norms are not the answer here, promising that what would follow the November election would be a street fight, not a legal battle. Two more data points among several that could be provided over the summer, two former Army officers, both prominent in the Democratic-aligned national security think tank world, wrote an open letter to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in which they urged him to deploy the 82nd Airborne Division to drag President Trump from the Oval Office precisely at 12:01 p.m., January 20th, 2021. About a month later, Hillary Clinton declared publicly that Joe Biden should not concede the election under any circumstance. The old English major in me interprets that word any to mean no, none, nada, niente, zero, zilch, bupkis. You get the idea. This doesn't sound like the rhetoric of a political party confident it will win an upcoming election. These items are to repeat a merely short but representative list of what Brian O'Rourke recently labeled coup porn. New York seems to think that this is just harmless fantasizing on the part of the ruling class and its Democratic servants. For some of them, no doubt that's true, but for all of them, not so sure. In his famously exhaustive discussion of conspiracies, Machiavelli goes out of his way to emphasize the indispensability of operational security, i.e. silence, to success. The first rule of conspiracy is you do not talk about the conspiracy. The second rule of conspiracy is you do not talk about the conspiracy. So why are Democrats publicly talking about the conspiracy? Because they know that for it to succeed, it must not look like a conspiracy. They need to plant the idea in the public mind now that their unlawful and illegitimate removal of President Trump from office will somehow be his own fault. Never mind the pesky detail that the president would refuse to leave only if he were convinced he legitimately won. Remember, Biden should not concede under any circumstances. The second part of the plan is either to produce enough harvested ballots, lawfully or not, to tip close states, or else dispute the results in close states and insist, no matter what the tally says, that Biden won them. The worst case scenario for the country, but not for the ruling class, would be results in a handful of states that are so ambiguous and hotly disputed that no one can rightly say who won. Of course, that will not stop the Democrats from insisting that they won. The public preparation for the public preparation for that has also already begun. Streams of stories on social media posts explaining how, while on election night it might look as if Trump won, close states will tip to Biden as all the mail-in ballots are to be counted. The third piece is to get the vast and loud Democratic left propaganda machine ready for war. That leaked report exhorted Democrats to identify key influencers in the media among local activists who can affect political perceptions and mobilize political action, who could establish pre-commitments to playing a constructive role in the event of a contested election, i.e. in blaring from every rooftop that Trump lost. Thank you, William Stenchever, for subscribing. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. At this point, it's safe to assume that unless Trump wins in a blowout, that can't be overcome by cheating and or denied via the ruling class's massive propaganda operation. That's exactly what every Democratic politician and media organ will shout. Anyway, what then? So, the Podesta assumption is that the military will side with the Democrats. There are reasons to fear they might. The Obama administration spent a great deal of political capital purging the officer corps of anyone not down with the program and promoting only those who are. Still, in all, the determining outcome of an election would be the most open political interference possible from our allegedly apolitical military. And it's plausible that the brass won't want to make its quiet support of the ruling class agenda that overt. The aforementioned chairman has already stated that the military won't play no role in the outcome of the election. That's probably not a feint, but one wonders if it will hold given the obvious attempt to influence military thinking by people like Jeffrey Goldberg in his recent Atlantic essay. By the way, I'm going to spend some time on that either later today or during tomorrow's show. Can the Democrats rely on the Secret Service to drag Trump out? I have no doubts on this one. I've seen the service up close. It is really, or strongly appears to be, apolitical. It has a job to do, protect the president, whoever that is. Officers take the job very seriously. If they don't believe Trump lost, I don't think they can be counted on to oust him. On the other hand, were they to believe he did lose and was refusing to leave, a scenario I find impossible to imagine, but the Democrats insist it's just around the corner, it's possible the service might act. Barring all that, what's left? Remember that phase from the Democratic war game, street fight. In other words, a repeat of this summer, only much, much bigger. Crank out the propaganda to eardrum-shattering decibels and fill the streets in every major city with protesters. Shut down the country and allow only one message to be heard. Trump must go. I.e., what's come to be known as a color revolution, the exact same playbook the American deep state runs in other countries whose leadership they don't like and is currently running in Belarus. Oust a leader, even an elected one, through agitation and call it democracy. This is what democracy looks like. Never heard that one? The events of the last few months may be interpreted as an attempt at color revolution that failed to gain enough steam, or as a trial run for the fall. Is the Trump administration prepared? Here's one thing they could do: play their own war game scenario so as to game out possibilities and minimize surprises. They should also be talking to people inside and outside of government who they absolutely trust to get a clear sense of who's on the inside and who won't go along with a coup and who might. They also need to set up or shore up now communication channels that do not rely on the media or big tech. Once the ruling class gives the word that the narrative is Trump lost, all the president's social media accounts will be suspended. The TV channels, with the likely exception of Fox News, will refuse to cover anything he says. Count on it. He's going to need a way to talk to the American people, and he has to find that means right now. For the rest of us, the most important thing we can do is raise awareness. If there is a conspiracy to remove President Trump from office, even if he wins, they're telling you about it precisely to get you ready for it so that when it happens, you won't think it was a conspiracy. You'll just blame the president. Don't be fooled. All right. So, what do you think of that, folks? I'm really curious what you think about that. Let's see. Even people in lefty Philly suburbs are going to vote Trump. They were making fun of Biden all weekend. Interesting. It's clear during the primaries, Biden had no interest in winning. Can't see Trump losing unless they cheat. We shall see. Interesting there. It's fascinating. They really. There will be violence no matter who wins. If Trump wins, they will feel justified to continue. And if Trump loses, they will not. They will riot. If Trump loses, they will riot when they realize that Biden cannot deliver. That's an interesting take too. I think the only way, I think you get, I think there's going to, if Biden won in a complete and utter landslide, I think you would see calm for a short period of time. But I don't know that right now they're getting what they want from, everyone's backing down from the protests and everyone's, shying away from them. I don't know. That chant, "This is what democracy looks like," it's false, for one. This is what mob rule looks like. And the fact that we're allowing them to get any results whatsoever is a problem. It's a big problem. But anyway, good morning, Irish Rose. I see you there. Good morning, Dark Isle. Becca Fairley. All You Need. I think I'm catching up here. I think Attack Alpaca, Stab and Joe. Did I say Stab and Joe? Good morning, Stab and Joe Scarborough. What's happening? I think I've caught up on that. All right. So, very interesting. All right, moving on. Kind of in the same the same vein. So, this is from the New York Post. Democrats determined to treat November's election as illegitimate unless they win. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? A recent deep dive in the Washington Post, what's the worst that could happen, exploring various potential outcomes as the 2020 presidential election, found that in every scenario except a Biden landslide. Let's see, what's the date of this? This is from September 6th. Yeah, this is yesterday. In every outcome, in every scenario except a Biden landslide, our simulation ended catastrophically. I kind of just said that, didn't I? Hello, Talik. How you doing? Welcome to the show. According to the article, any other outcome is destined to spark violence and a constitutional crisis. Really? A landslide Trump victory would spark a constitutional crisis? How, Sway? How? By the way, I do have my cup of reparation coffee in the 2020 FFS cup. Get one at Dawg.Live, and I'm going to take a sip. Fantastic. All right. In other words, according to the Washington Post, hey, nice country you got there. Every assumption in the article is awash in the conspiratorial paranoia that's infected the modern Democratic Party. It's a world where Trump officials, played quite implausibly by Joe Biden partisans Michael Steele and Bill Kristol, are ruthless, unconstrained right out the gate. You know what's funny? Have we seen a right-wing riot yet? You know, it's funny. As I'm on Twitter, people are talking about, the FBI says right-wing groups are the most dangerous groups. Really? So even though they had some stupid article saying that 90% of all riots, 90% of all the protests were peaceful, they still noted 540 riots declared over the last 3 months around the United States. So whether 90% are peaceful or not, if you got 540 events where shit's burning, I'm sorry. I don't care if 90% are peaceful. Even 90% of the time the protest is happening, and then the other 10% is people burning shit down. That's a problem, and it's not capturing hearts and minds anyway. I'm going to go back. Every assumption in the article is awash in the conspiratorial paranoia that's infected the modern Democratic Party. It's a world where Trump officials, played quite implausibly by Joe Biden partisans Michael Steele and Bill Kristol, are ruthless and unconstrained right out the gate, but the genteel statesmen of Team Biden struggled to get out of reaction mode. Come on. They were protesting when Trump won in 2016. And there were violent protests when Trump won in 2016. And on Inauguration Day. And at least every few weeks since he's been elected president. And now, every day since the anointed one, George Floyd, who, may he rest in peace, he didn't deserve to die, but hey, he didn't die because of, well, never mind. We're not going to get into that shit. It's a place where Republicans aren't only reflexively seditious and autocratic, but a highly politicized Supreme Court tries to steal the election. In their war game scenarios, however, it's the Democrats who refuse to accept the will of the courts to adhere to the constitutionally prescribed system rather than hysteria, and it's the Democrats who wish-cast the wholly imaginary popular vote into existence. Yes, we're going to change the rules after the election. Hello, ex-Bubba Hotep. One of the scenarios we learned doesn't look that different from 2016, a contest in which, it must be pointed out, not one vote has been proven to be uncounted or altered in that outcome, America is confronted with a big popular win for Mr. Biden and a narrow electoral defeat. In the real world, incidentally, that scenario is called a Trump victory because we don't care about the popular vote. In the fictional game, however, John Podesta, playing the role of Biden, contends that his party won't let him concede the race and instead alleges voter suppression. The catch-all go-to every time a Democrat loses, and persuades the Democratic governors of Trump-won states such as Wisconsin and Michigan to send pro-Biden electors to the Electoral College. In the meantime, California, Oregon, and Washington threaten to secede from the Union if Trump takes office. The Democratic House unilaterally names Biden president. At that point in the scenario, the New York Times' Ben Smith explains, quote, "The nation stopped looking to the media for cues and waited to see what the military would do." This is their scenario. Remember we talked a little bit about the coup? This scenario is what a real-life coup might resemble. It is needlessly to say utterly insane that Democrats would destroy the nation's long-standing and peaceful transition because they refuse to accept the mandated process of electing the president, all of which is to say the proactive and retroactive delegitimization of the Trump presidency has been a successful 4-year project. First, Democrats convinced millions of Americans that a handful of inept and puerile social media ads were enough to overturn a presidential election in the most powerful nation on earth. What happened there? That threw me out. By 2017, a majority of Democrats believed vote tallies had been tampered with by the Russians. And that's the funny thing. They still haven't answered the question, what was the quantitative effect of this supposed Russian meddling? Can you name a person who changed their vote because of a Buff Bernie coloring book or Jesus and the devil fighting over who should be president? I don't think so. They haven't. In fact, they still don't have any evidence that the Russians hacked the DNC. If you read some of the newly declassified House testimony behind closed doors by CrowdStrike, who says, well, we didn't have any real evidence. Thank you, ex-Bubba Hotep with the devil's donation and new superstar donor of the day, who says, I've lost over a decade of old friends when I point out that in that 93% peaceful article, there are still hundreds of absolutely confirmed violent protests in the last couple weeks. Yeah, 500 some. 500 violent protests that they're counting. So they're saying, okay, there's 5,000 protests over the last 3 months. Or let's say, they're saying 93% peaceful, right? But if a protest lasts 10 hours and it's peaceful for 9, but a riot for an hour that burns down a whole section of the city, that's 90% peaceful, right? It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for a peaceful protest to turn into some bullshit. Or do they? Or the other thing I wanted to, when they say peaceful, for example, so if you saw some videos over the weekend, you saw some of the, I think it was out in Rochester, where the peaceful BLM protests would walk by a restaurant where there'd be some people eating outside, right? And they decide to start yelling their bullhorns at people who are sitting outside eating, and then they go into the restaurant and just throw glasses on the ground and steal their glass and destroy that restaurant. When they say 93% peaceful, do they count that protest as peaceful or not peaceful when they're harassing and basically terrorizing people trying just to have a meal? Is that peaceful? Do they count that as peaceful? It's amazing how I guess I don't know. I can't say it's amazing, but I'm pretty sure they would count that as peaceful, despite the fact that there was some violence going on there, right? Good morning, Duck Dog. What's happened? If a sandwich was only 10% shit, would you still eat it? Hey, good point, Duck Dog. That is a fantastic point, and thank you. By the way, thank you, Bubba Hotep, for being the first super chatter of the day. That program's available. Just watch the chat. You'll find where you can do that. Anyway, since then, Democrats have been working to convince themselves there's no legitimate way in which Trump could win again. A large number of high-profile left-wing columnists have laid the groundwork to make this case, and high-profile politicians have joined them. Hillary Clinton's advice to Biden was not to concede defeat on the night of November 3rd, the November 3rd election, no matter what happens. Yeah, because now they're going to try to bring in a few mail-in votes, right? And I don't. Anyway, and Representative Adam Schiff said, the president's misconduct cannot be decided at the ballot box, for we cannot be assured that the vote will be fairly won. They're laying the groundwork to make it delegitimate. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi noted that let the election decide, and it is a dangerous position because Trump is already jeopardizing the integrity of the 2020 elections. No. All you Democrats screaming and yelling all these bullshit conspiracy theories, which you compete with Alex Jones in that department. Anyway, a recent USA Today poll found that 28% of Biden supporters say they aren't prepared to accept a Trump victory as fairly won, and 19% of Trump supporters say the same about a potential Biden victory. So a significant minority of American voters don't believe the next election will be legitimate before it has even been conducted. What happens when every long line at the polls and every Facebook meme and every delayed mail-in ballot is turned into a nefarious plot by the enemy to snatch democracy from the rightful winner? It's going to be ugly indeed. If their war games are to be believed, that's what the Democrats are counting on. Absolutely. All right, let's keep going here. Let's get rid of a couple of these. Bang. One more on this kind of... and then this is kind of a little bit about that. This is kind of has to do with that article. That article that everyone's so excited about, at least Democrats. The attempt to drive a wedge between Trump and the military should rattle all Americans. Waking up to a news cycle trying to convince you that President Trump does not respect members of the military or dismiss their sacrifice should not be viewed as just another poorly sourced hit piece. Even though, let me stop here for this quick super chat. Thank you, Bubba Hotep, with the 357. And still the superstar donor of the day, who says, to give a weight to what they consider peaceful, Chop Chaz was a peaceful area. Yeah, with murders. A peaceful protest cake with frosting of murders in the street. Dumbasses. Thank you, Bubba Hotep. I appreciate it. So even though, according to witnesses, that is precisely what... Wake up to a news cycle trying to convince you that President Trump does not respect members of the military or dismisses their sacrifice should not be viewed as just another poorly sourced hit piece, even though, according to witnesses, that is precisely what the Atlantic story is. It is the intent of the anonymous sources that should rattle you. While researching Ukraine around the time of Trump's impeachment, I came across a bit of research that bothered me. The research was from academic and diplomat Michael McFaul. McFaul served as ambassador to Russia under President Barack Obama and was the architect of the Russian reset. Remember that BS? Good morning, George Cesaro. What's happening? In the early 2000s, he studied the so-called color revolutions in the former states of the Soviet Union. McFaul identified the 7 elements of successful revolutions in those countries. Reporting from The Atlantic and the New York Times fits into step number 7. Both publications have run stories highlighting racial, gender, and sexual orientation divisions in the military in the past week. To understand why this matters, we will go through McFaul's 7 steps one by one. We have seen these steps used during the Arab Spring and the Maidan Revolution in Ukraine. They were weaponized and taught overseas by the State Department under Hillary Clinton in a program called Tech Camps. This program taught activists how to build movements using technology. The groups were then activated around an invigorating event. Clearly, the event being leveraged here is the 2020 election. Do I want to go through this whole thing? You know what? I am gonna spend time in this because it tells you what you're seeing happening in our country right now, and it's nuts. So first off, Trump is literally Hitler. The first element of successful color revolution, according to McFall, is a semi-autocratic rather than fully autocratic regime. This narrative about President Trump has been pervasive in the media and and echoed by prominent Democrats since before he was elected. Despite all evidence to the contrary, the president is consistently painted as walking the line between constitutional order and authoritarianism. Sometimes he's accused of crossing it, which is amazing. I'm still trying to figure out exactly if Trump is a dictator, show me what he's done that makes him a dictator. I'm asking because there's still a lot of people protesting, and I don't think people who protest dictators usually don't end up in large mass digging sites, if you know what I mean. Anyway, in the last month, Democrats and the corporate media have resurfaced the narrative that President Trump will not accept the election results if Biden wins. They assert that he will refuse to concede and will have to be forced out of the White House if he loses the election. Funny, has Hillary Clinton? Okay, answer this. This is the question of the day in the chat, and just put yes or no. Okay, has Hillary Clinton yet conceded the 2016 election? Like in reality, not that she made some speech a couple days later after she got too drunk on election night because she kept drinking every time a new state showed his electoral votes. Just out of curiosity, yes or no in the chat, has she officially accepted the results of the 2016 election? Oh, I'm sorry. I should ask more like her responsibility for losing the 2016 election, but I'm just curious. Anyway, the administration's actions to protect the federal courthouse in Portland were also framed as evidence of Trump's authoritarian tendencies. Speaker Nancy Pelosi called federal law enforcement officers the president's stormtroopers. Oops, wrong one. The president's stormtroopers. And Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan declared it a dress rehearsal for martial law. Really? Didn't the president give you an option? And hello Wikipedia snippet. And in Portland, they were protecting a federal building that they were in, and they brought in some reinforcements to protect the federal building that they were in, not the entire city of Portland, you jackasses. Anyway, Trump's move to reduce federal funding to cities that fail to protect their citizens and to fund police departments is all being framed as beyond his constitutional power, as if the federal government using funding as a carrot and a stick to get states to implement their preferred programs hasn't been the norm for decades. And first of all, why is the federal government funding cities and police departments? That's not even the federal government's job. You know what? I say the federal government stop subsidizing every city and state, and just, you know what? How about we lower our federal taxes to a point where only the stuff that the federal government is supposed to be doing gets paid for, and the local governments can decide how much they're going to spend and tax and all this shit, and then you can decide where you want to live based on how local governments treat you as a citizen and your own money. But I digress. None of this is based in reality, and it does not ring true to anyone following politics closely. Those voters are not the target. These narratives are aimed at the Democratic base and persuadable voters. Number 2, the role of Never Trump. According to McFall, the second requirement is an unpopular incumbent. Where to begin? The constant reminders that the president did not win the popular vote may be a good start. The implication is, and always was, that large swaths of voters nationwide did not like the president. In reality, most of Hillary's popular vote surplus came from deep blue California. Actually, all of her popular vote surplus basically came from California. Take out at least the entire margin, because she won by California by like 5 million votes, and her popular vote win was, what is it, 3 million, something like that. So there you go. Anyway, Democrats and the media used disaffected former Republicans as further proof Trump is unpopular with his own party. By the way, if you just got here, I have a video coming out of a thread that I read on Twitter, just one of my in my new thread reader series, although I've only done a couple of them, but I'm going to start doing more of them. And Jeff, who is at Protein Wisdom on Twitter, made a kind of a good point about this, is that oh shoot, hang on. Oh, about how these what was it? Oh gosh, I lost my thought. Anyway, let me just continue here. Democrats and the media, I did a Joe Biden there. Did you see that? Did y'all see that? I went Joe Biden. You know the thing. you know the thing. Anyway, Democrats and the media used disaffected former Republicans as further proof Trump is unpopular within his own party. Yeah, these jackasses. The DNC highlighted these supporters during their convention. These are the same people who are often on CNN and other networks to represent the typical Republican point of view. Oh, my point is that these are all establishment hacks. And the president, I remember my thought now. The president doesn't rely on the establishment. In fact, he is pretty much the anti-establishment. He's kind of that, and I always hate to use the word the deep state, but the establishment on the left and the right, they all are pretty much part of the same cabal, right? And they think it's, that it's not that the president is the one who should be setting policy for the State Department or the Department of Justice or the military. There are entrenched bureaucrats and statists who think that they have they're the ones who set the policy. So when you see someone like Vindman, remember Colonel Vindman or whatever, Lieutenant Vindman, the guy who during impeachment was saying that Trump was going against State Department policy. Trump is State Department policy. He's the president of the United States, and the president of the United States, in this case, which is unusual, is interested in doing the will of the voters who put him in office. The voters who put him in office want a policy and want this thing to happen, and he's going by what they want and not what the entrenched bureaucrats want. Vindman, it's impossible for the president of the United States to go against State Department policy, because that's in our constitutional republic. That's who sets State Department policy. That's who sets Department of Justice policy. That's who sets military policy. The executive branch. So anyway, the left also uses identity politics to try and make President Trump unpopular with specific constituencies. Note that Biden still uses the very fine people Charlottesville hoax in speeches. The media is also fawned over former Trump associates who have negative things to say about him, the president, like Michael Cohen, and even family members like Trump's niece Mary. Recent peaceful protests are also to demonstrate there are hordes of citizens who oppose President Trump. The media and Democrats try to frame this unrest as Trump's America. Despite all the evidence, these riots have been supported by Democrats in power and even financially supported by members of the Biden campaign. The third part, the role of the resistance. The third requirement, according to McFall, is a united and organized opposition. The complete convergence of our institutions in opposing this president is breathtaking. It is so thorough that the Media Research Center has no problem creating extensive montages of media figures pushing Democrat focus group tested talking points. The entertainment is full of anti-Trump messaging, and even professional sports are now in the game. No pun intended. And add academia and even portions of the federal bureaucracy, and it's easy to control the narrative. The opposition even has a name. The Resistance started shortly after the election. Using the hashtag or that phrase is a way to signal that you are on the team. Any group can join the broader movement and oppose the president on its own terms. He has a problem, though. There's a lot of people out there that don't like those people, but that's okay. Polling since the conventions is reinforcing the idea that the president is unpopular. Poorly constructed polls have been pushed out by corporate media outlets for the last week that either oversample specific populations or survey all American adults. With less than 2 months until Election Day, polls should be assessing likely voters. At a minimum, registered voters should be the respondents. However, unless the people read the poll details, they would not understand the game being played. Yeah, they oversample Democrats. I mean, in some of these polls, like they would have like 43% Democrat, 23% Republican, and then the rest independents or unknowns. And if you look at elections, likely voters, that's never going to be the case, that it'll be that overwhelmingly lopsided. It's embarrassing. That's how some of these polls work. Hello, it's Rydeos. Nice to see you. Septus Wolf, what's happening? And Ronan, I said hi, but you may not have heard it, so I'm going to say it again. Here's another part, the push for mail-in voting. It is not that Democrats are not aware of the problems with mail-in voting. It has caused problems in their own primary in New York City and in an election that has been thrown out in Paterson, New Jersey. It has also been reported that between 2012 and 2018, at least 1 in 5 mail-in ballots went missing in elections nationwide. Democrats are counting on this. That's why they're pushing it. They know that they can say no matter what happens, if they push enough mail-in voting, they know what the actual rate of return on those mail-in votes are. They can say whatever they want with impunity. It's embarrassing. Anyway, and Democrats are counting this, and this is why they're pushing so hard for it. McFall says the fourth ingredient in a successful color revolution is an ability to quickly drive home the point that voting results were falsified. Democrats are setting up 2020 so either side can make this claim. As the Bloomberg-funded group Hawkfish noted in a recent report, Democratic voters will be far more likely to vote by mail than Republicans. Hawkfish predicts a false landslide for Trump on election night that will erode as mail-in votes are counted. Depending on how this rolls out, it could look very suspicious to Republican voters who understand the fraud potential with mail-in ballots. Likewise, if a large number of mail-in votes are missing or thrown out for technical reasons, Democrats will scream disenfranchise. No, they'll scream bloody murder. Yet Democrats are the ones setting their voters up to be disenfranchised by pushing COVID-19 panic porn. This chaos will impact the way our elections typically proceeds. As required by law, local election results will be challenged in court nationwide, and it will make the hanging Chad controversy in Bush versus Gore look like child's play. Results will be delayed for weeks and threaten the deadlines to confirm results at the state level. According to one analysis in the Wall Street Journal, entire states could be disenfranchised. Democrats and their allies in the media are perfectly willing to destroy our faith in a safe and fair election that leads to the peaceful transfer of power our republic has relied on for more than 2 centuries. These are the lengths they will go in order to gain power. They are pushing mail-in voting despite health experts saying in-person voting is safe. Then we'll get to the role of media. It should not surprise you to know that requirement number 5 is having enough independent media to inform citizens about the falsified vote. As Ben Shapiro noted, the media is simply the PR wing for the Biden campaign at this point. Cheryl Atkinson went a step further and outlined the current information operation regarding the military. So here's what she says. Think what you will, but here's what I see based on my experience. Classic operation described in my book, The Smear. Will this operation work any better than others? All comments are welcome. So here it is. Let's see. Did they do this down here? A classic political operation will go after Trump's active and retired military support. Poll is conducted and released claiming Trump is losing popularity with the military. Anonymously sourced story dating back to 2018 is suddenly fed to left-wing leading propaganda blog The Atlantic claiming Trump has disparaged fallen U.S. troops. On the record, on record documents and sources including Pompeo, Bolton, Sanders contradict this story. First reported question in a rare Biden availability is given to the Atlantic. He asked about Trump's soul in light of the story. Stories are planted and ready to go, including one in USA Today written by a journalism teacher, no less, claiming Trump is eager to kill Stars and Stripes military magazine, which he denies. It was crazy. Oh, L Wolf too. Okay, and Best Wolf. There's all kinds of wolves in here. What the hell's going on? For the Democratic operatives, including John Podesta, did an election war game. We know about the election war game. We've talked about that a couple times, so I'm going to skip this. Whether corporate media will frame whatever narrative the Democrats needs them to is not a question. They're already doing it and have been since 2016. They framed President Trump as an illegitimate leader based on the fiction of Russian collusion. Now they are eagerly resurfacing that meme based on a leak from a classified briefing. They simply ignore the fact that the same briefing said China and Iran are working hard to get Biden elected and are actually acting in more overt ways. The media also still carries for water for Stacey Abrams, who has never conceded. Let's just pause here. Thank you, Maddie, for the $5 super chat, who says, throughout history, the media has often played a role of the propaganda machine in times of unrest. Of course they have, and our media is doing their damnedest. I mean, it's almost embarrassing watching our media right now. It's not even a lack of objectivity. It is all out activism. It's embarrassing to watch. Zero impartiality from our media right now. They're activists, all rooting against the president. The media still, I'll start over. The media still carries water for Stacey Abrams, who's never conceded the gubernatorial race in Georgia. The media insists the election was stolen. 50,000 votes she lost by. With no proof and a substantial amount of information to the contrary. At the DNC, they even put Abrams on the governor's panel. They said the same of Andrew Gillum's race in Florida. Not even close. Until the unfortunate hotel scandal surfaced. The narrative is that red states suppress minority votes, said that these results will be questions. Yeah, how? In Georgia, record voter turnout. Oh, they suppressed minority votes. Bullshit. And then there's the role of the riots. Of course, none of this matters unless large groups of Americans are angry and ready to protest. As McFall notes, a political opposition capable of mobilizing tens of thousands or more demonstrators to protest electoral fraud is necessary. Oh, well, they have them already lined up, don't they? Think about the riots this summer and put killing a black man by police officers at number 4, and the whole pattern still works. The unrest and destruction should be seen as a dry run. The DNC also partners with 2 organizations, Act Blue, where all of BLM's money is going through, over $1 billion, by the way, and Action Network, who are allied with one another. Together, these platforms allow progressive groups, including Antifa, to raise money and organize protests electronically. It gives progressive activist groups the ability to privately and quickly communicate with members of their mailing list. There is even a degree of list sharing between the groups, from Action Network's announcement of the DNC partnership. They're partnering and coordinating with the DNC. Here's their announcement. We had hoped to announce our partnership with the DNC under much different circumstances, but now facing an unprecedented crisis that has forced us all to move our organizing from in-person to digital, our partnership to build robust, safe, and trusted technology for the movement is more important than ever. As COVID-19 affects our collective communities, and changes the world around us by the hour, we are working to be as responsive as possible to the needs of you, our partners, and your communities. For months now, in partnership with DNC and through our nonprofit cooperative development model, we've been doubling down on our efforts to make sure the Action Network toolset can be there every moment to get your communications in people's inboxes quickly and effectively. I wonder if this coordination with the DNC is even legal. I'm curious. Hello, Chadwick Dupree. What's up? And the last requirement, McFaul lists divisions among the regime's coercive forces. This element is the most dangerous and sinister one on the list. It has also been going on for 4 years. The intelligence and federal law enforcement apparatus were weaponized against President Trump before the election. Leaks from these agencies have been constant and divisive. Retired generals have come out against President Trump. Former Defense Secretary General James Mattis openly criticized Pentagon's officials and the president for their response to the riots this summer. Foreign law enforcement officials, including Attorney General, U.S. attorneys, sheriffs, and police chiefs, have also come out for Biden. President Trump has generally maintained support from the rank-and-file military as well as law enforcement officers. In fact, several police unions have endorsed him, including the largest, the Fraternal Order of Police. The recent full-court press is meant to diminish President Trump with the troops. As noted in the war game, Democrats will take drastic action in the case of a loss and wait to see what the military does. This disgusting narrative is meant to encourage them to prefer Biden. Democrats are actually willing to try and politicize the military, a despicable move to gain power. You should expect moves to try and ruin his reputations with police officers as well. I'm sure they're going to come up with something. I heard Donald Trump in the Oval Office when talking to his attorney general said all cops are bastards, because that's a right-wing phrase, which is hilarious. Someone who pointed this out, I think it was Ranting Monkey, pointed out, the phrase all cops are bastards. That came from the skinheads, like neo-Nazis came up with that phrase. And it's hilarious that the anti-fascist used that phrase. That is classic neo-Nazi terminology. But hey, it works out well for the so-called Antifa. Anyway. So Democrats and their allies are not even hiding the ball. Hillary Clinton has openly encouraged Joe Biden not to concede under any circumstances. John Kerry has hinted that we are getting very close to a revolution because of disaffected voters. Other Democratic leaders have endorsed the riots and encouraged violence. The radicals in the street have openly supported violence and actively call for a revolution. Even the professor is giving the game away. McFaul, who is now a Stanford professor, has been openly tweeting about his theory for days now. He did an entire thread after the RNC about how it was typical of an autocrat and effectively framing the president's supporters as brown shirts. Who are the freaking brown shirts? I think it's the guys in the little black kick-ass costumes. Anyway, McFaul also commented on voter disenfranchisement in Georgia and is pushing the Russian interference meme. He also deleted a tweet comparing Trump to Putin for the president's statement on education. This morning, it was shocking to see this since deleted tweet. Here it is. Trump has lost the intelligence community. He has lost the State Department. He has lost the military. How can he continue to serve as our commander-in-chief? Ah! Ha! Ha! Ah! The Obama bros, like Ben Bros, amplify him. McFaul appears on MSDNC and CNNCCP. You can also see the Lefty Blue Checkmark Brigade mimic his talking points if you watch closely. So, what to do? There's no reason to believe this narrative will not continue to be amplified right through the election day. It is up to each one of us to correct the record with everyone we know and vote in person as if your life depends on it. Ensure others do also. Remind people about early voting, which is slow periods where it's easier to socially distance. If your state is implementing mail-in voting because of the pandemic, petition your county to open polling places and educate your neighbors and communities about how many mail-in ballots get lost. The only way to head off chaos is to make sure we can have faith in the election process. The only way to do that is to reject the fundamental changes to the system that Democrats are proposing. So there you go. I read that whole article because I think it's very important. All right, let's just do some quick odds and ends, and then we're going to get out of Dodge here. Antifa shaping the national narrative on protests by controlling the news. So this is an article by Rick Moran. I'll put it in the chat, but talks about how Antifa's, you know how Antifa doesn't like their pictures taken? Well, now they don't even like if people filming anything. Good morning, Disney. Disney, I didn't even see you come in. How you doing? Antifa has taken control of what you're seeing coming out of Portland, and they're not being very gentle about it. Nancy Rummelman at Reason gives us a glimpse into a sophisticated media operation by Antifa that looks to bend the narrative in the direction they want it by intimidation and outright thuggery. You're not allowed to film is a cry you hear incessantly at protests in Portland, Oregon, always shouted at close range in your face by after dark demonstrators. You can assert that yes, you can film. You can point out that they themselves are filming incessantly. You can push their hands away from covering your phone. You can have your phone record them stealing your phone. All of these things have happened to me, and none will have any impact on their contention that you're not allowed to film. And its occasional variation, photography equals death. Yeah, they're literally threatening people. But you know the beauty of it is these dumb shits are filming and live streaming the shit they do themselves. So it's easy to find on the internet. In fact, if you go to places like Eyes On or there's a few other aggregators that have multiple feeds going at the same time of these idiots live streaming what they're doing. So they're stupid. This Robinman has been covering the protests since July, believes the narrative being foisted on the American people is 90% bullshit. She says, I wondered the first time I attended the protest at the federal building back in July who all these young people with press emblazoned on their jackets and helmets were. So I asked one guy who he worked for. Independent Press Corps, he told me. As it turns out, dozens of other young press people happened to work for the same outfit, which I at first assumed was a fancy way of saying, I want to report stuff and stream it on my Instagram. This turned out to be naive. The IPC is an organized group in league with the activists, and it is usually their footage you see streamed online and recycled in the news. Mostly innocent protesters being harassed and beaten by police. Yeah, so you know how you always see the little 15 or 30-second clip, and it's always the police beating on the protesters or some shit, or just even the tear gas, whatever. It's because these people come out, they film their own stuff, and they feed it to the media so that they're hurting peaceful protesters. Oh, they're so mean, and these are fascist police. Yeah, watch the live feeds. You'll see everything. It's amazing. Anyway, apparently this is a group that's being funded too, and the media organization somehow is the media is somehow getting all their footage. It's amazing, and they're showing all their footage of the peaceful protesters, right? Let's see, reporters seen as not sufficiently sympathetic to cause, Reporters seen as not sufficiently sympathetic to cause, which is defined by the 10 demands for justice and includes most notably the abolition of police, will be followed, be harassed, and have their notes photographed and their phones blocked or stolen. All these things have happened to this person in the last month. Even the commies aren't this efficient. The approved journalists include a freelance writer whose reports have appeared in the New York Times and another freelance who tweeted approval of the burning of the police station building. So here's this guy, Robert Evans. The burning of the Portland Police Association building was a well-coordinated, executed action with minimal casualties by protesters. The PPA is trending nationwide. This might be the single biggest win of any action in the Portland uprising so far. Oh my God. Anyway, I put that article in the chat. You can read that on your own leisure. Portland police. Firebombs, mortars, rocks thrown at law enforcement during riot Saturday night. On day, 102, 101? The riots continue. I'm not even going to read this article. It's the same shit, different day. But there is one special, very special Portland rioter who decided to celebrate 100 nights of riots by tossing a Molotov cocktail and instantly regret it. We'll show you the video. This moron just happened to set himself on fire. There he is. He threw the Molotov cocktail and now he's on fire. Someone take your damn jacket off and put it around his damn feet. I feel so bad for that guy. I mean, you know, it's so sad that he caught on fire. FTG. 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 FT fucking G. Also, let's see. Also, there have been some celebrities arrested. BLM, nah, try RWP. Rich white privileged son of famous rich white John Malkovich arrested in a Portland riot. And that's not all. Last night's violent rioting in Portland, the 109th of anarchy and chaos in that Pacific Northwest town, included many attacks on police and even a person catching on fire, which we just saw. It also included the arrest of Loie Malkovich, a 38-year-old wealth software developer. Also, he's the son of immensely famous and fabulously wealthy actor John Malkovich. He was busted on charges of interfering with a peace officer and second-degree disorderly conduct, according to a release by the Portland Police Bureau, reports the New York Post. The actor's Portland-based software engineer's son, Loie Malkovich, 38, was listed as one of 27 people arrested Friday night, the 100th consecutive night of protests in the whitest major city in the U.S. He was busted on charges of interfering with a peace officer and second-degree disorderly conduct, according to a release by the Portland Police Bureau. I'm going to talk about this girl too. Wealthy New York City college student among 8 accused of rioting in Manhattan. A wealthy college student from New York City was one of the 8 rioters accused of smashing windows and spraying graffiti in downtown Manhattan Friday. Now, I know in Portland, it's basically catch and release, and then they go out and do more shit. I don't know if they catch and release this girl or not. Anyway, Clara Kraber, 20, is a well-to-do Upper East Sider whose mother is an architect for Kindred Architect Works, which designs spaces for Columbia University and New York University. Her father is a child psychiatrist who teaches at Columbia University's Department of Psychiatry, the New York Post has reported. In 2016, the family purchased a $1.8 million 16th floor apartment on East End Avenue. The family also owns a home in Litchfield County, Connecticut, with 4 fireplaces that dates back to the 1730s. Graber was one of 8 people arrested for allegedly causing more than $100,000 in damage during a 3-hour rampage from Foley Square to 24th Street. Far-left groups calling themselves the Revolutionary Abolitionist Movement and the New African Black Panther Party organized the riot. Yes, this young little redhead girl is part of the, what do they call it? The New African Black Panther Party. Well, there you go. Despite Graber's lavish upbringing, she is no stranger to street protests. She interviewed with the New York Times in 2014, explaining why she joined a Manhattan rally on behalf of the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri. Graber was a 14-year-old student at Hunter College High School at the time. So anyway, little rich kids getting some jail minutes since they catch release. Also, there's a judge in Detroit who's banned police from using tear gas batons on BLM protesters, even if demonstrations escalate. A Detroit judge. So see, now we got judges doing this shit too. A Detroit judge ruled late last week that the Detroit Police Department cannot use non-lethal means to handle anti-racism and anti-police brutality protests that descend into chaos, at least for the next 2 weeks. And Detroit's anti-police activists are looking to make the ban permanent. Hey, you know what? I don't know if that's really what you should be doing there, Judge. So you're banning non-lethal means? Anybody following me here? Banning non-lethal means. Hi, Amy. Hi, Jaeger Pony. Huh. I'm just going to leave that hanging like that, and we're going to go on to the next one. Oh, the charges, the Kenosha prosecutor. Okay, I'm going to finish with this. I'm going to skip. Do I want to do this now? I'll do that one later. I'm going to do that as a video. So let's talk about Kyle Rittenhouse for a second, and we're going to finish with this because I have a date for breakfast with my wife. The Kenosha prosecutor is, with the charges they brought, is basically proving Kyle Rittenhouse's case. So this is from Civis Americanus. I downloaded and read the charges filed against Kyle Rittenhouse by Kenosha Assistant District Attorney Angelina Gabrielle. If I were on a jury and I read only the DA's side of the story, I would acquit Rittenhouse for the most serious charges, even without listening to his side. The only one that looks to me as if it could have merit is possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18, which is a misdemeanor. Let's start with Rittenhouse's first assailant, Joseph D. Rosenbaum. That was the little bald guy who likes to say the word nigga with an I, nigga. Anyway, if this Joseph Don Rosenbaum from Arizona, if this is John Joseph Don Rosenbaum from Arizona, he served prison time, which is usually consistent with a felony conviction. I was unable to confirm from Arizona or Wisconsin records that he was a sexual offender, as some have claimed. The following is not Rittenhouse's side of the story as told by himself or his attorney. It is the prosecutor's side of the story. The probable cause portion of the document says, he's copying from an OCR transcript from the original PDF document, so the accuracy might not be 100%. Following the defendant is Rosenbaum. The video shows that as they cross the parking lot, Rosenbaum appears to throw an object at the defendant. The object does not hit the defendant, and a second video shows, based on where the object landed, that it was a plastic bag. The prosecutors therefore stipulated that Rosenbaum followed Rittenhouse, and that the video shows that he pursued Rittenhouse. The video also shows the unknown object went considerably farther than an empty plastic bag would have gone, which suggests that it was some kind of weapon. Here's a quote. Rosenbaum appears to be unarmed for the duration of this video. A review of the second video shows that the defendant and Rosenbaum continue to move across the parking lot and approach the front of a black car in the parking lot. A loud bang is heard on the video, then a male shouts, "Fuck you!" Then Rosenbaum appears to continue to approach the defendant and gets in near the proximity of the defendant when 4 more loud bangs are heard. Rosenbaum then falls to the ground. That sounds suspiciously like Rosenbaum was pursuing Rittenhouse. The prosecutor therefore stipulated that Rosenbaum not only continued to approach Rittenhouse, but was in close proximity to him. She then adds that, according to the witness, McGinnis stated that there were other people that were moving very quickly. McGinnis stated that they were moving towards the defendant. McGinnis said that, according to what he saw, the defendant was trying to evade the individuals, thus stipulating not only was the mob chasing Rittenhouse, also shown in the video, but also that Rittenhouse was attempting to retreat from the mob rather than use deadly force. Rittenhouse did his best to de-escalate and disengage, while his assailants insisted on a deadly confrontation, which in Rosenbaum's case ended badly. The DA's probable cause continues by stipulating that Rosenbaum did try to grab Rittenhouse's weapon, which now makes him armed in legal mumbo-jumbo, which seems to constitute robbery, forcibly taking a violent felony of a firearm that could have been turned immediately on his owner. McGinnis said that the unarmed guy, Rosenbaum, was trying to get the defendant's gun. McGinnis demonstrated by extending both of his hands in a quick grabbing motion that and did that as a visual on how Rosenbaum tried to reach for the defendant's gun. Detective Sepris indicates that he asked McGinnis if Rosenbaum had his hands on the gun when the defendant shot. McGinnis said that he definitely made a motion that he was trying to grab the barrel of the gun. The prosecutors offered no justification, such as self-defense, for Rosenbaum's actions, which means he had no right to take Rittenhouse's firearm. The criminal complaint then stipulates that the mob was indeed chasing Rittenhouse while yelling violent threats such as "get his ass" and allegedly "beat him up." Then a male in a light-colored top runs toward the defendant and appears to swing at the defendant with his right arm. The swing makes contact with the defendant, knocking his hat off. The prosecutor goes on to stipulate that convicted domestic abuser Anthony M. Huber assaulted Rittenhouse with a weapon and did exactly what Rosenbaum did to get himself killed. He tried to grab Rittenhouse's rifle. Anthony Huber approaches the defendant, who is still on the ground, on his back. Huber has a skateboard in his right hand. When Huber reaches the defendant, it appears that he is reaching for the defendant's gun with his left hand. As the skateboard makes contact with the defendant's left shoulder, Huber appears to be trying to pull the gun away from the defendant. This tells me, my perception, that Huber tried to commit an armed robbery to obtain a firearm he was prohibited from possessing as a convicted violent felon, and that he assaulted Rittenhouse with the weapon. One of the aggravating factors in his domestic abuse conviction, too. Next, we come to the survivor, Gage P. Grosskreutz. After shooting Huber, the defendant moves to a seated position and points the gun at a third male, later identified as Gage Grosskreutz, who had begun to approach the defendant. When the defendant shot Huber, Grosskreutz freezes and ducks and takes a step back. Grosskreutz puts his hands in the air. This tells me Grosskreutz had a possible opportunity at this moment to de-escalate and disengage, but he chose not to take it. Grosskreutz then moves towards the defendant, who aims his gun at Grosskreutz and shoots him, firing a shot. Grosskreutz was shot in the right arm. Grosskreutz appears to be holding a handgun in his right hand when he was shot. Appears to? Proven with video evidence, video and photographic evidence. Rittenhouse refrained from shooting another individual who put up his empty hands to show that he wished to discontinue whatever he was doing. A rapid de-escalation for which both Rittenhouse and the other man deserve credit. Grosskreutz, on the other hand, continued to advance while allegedly armed. Hands up, don't shoot, doesn't count when you're holding a firearm in your upraised hand. Now, I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is that the prosecutor must establish a prima facie, at first sight, case to charge somebody with a crime. Prima facie means that if we assume that everything in the criminal complaint is true, the defendant is guilty. If we assume that everything in the complaint against Kyle Rittenhouse is true, it looks instead as though all the shootings were clear-cut self-defense, while the misdemeanor charge is the only one that survives even this preliminary assessment. Now, while I'm not an expert witness here either, here's what Massad Ayub, Here's what Massad Ayub has to say about not only the Rittenhouse shooting, but also the Jacob Blake shooting that prompted the civil disorder in Kenosha in the first place. Ayub points out, for example, the issues of disparity of force and also that Huber's skateboard was a dangerous weapon similar to an axe handle. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to finish with that today, guys, because like I said, I have a lunch date. Or breakfast date, actually. Y'all, you know what? I hope you're enjoying the long weekend. I'm going to call this let me click a couple of clicks here real quick. I hope you have a nice long weekend, or have had a nice long weekend. I took tons of video at these beautiful, just amazing gardens we went to in St. Cloud, Minnesota. If you're ever in St. Cloud, just ask somebody where are the gardens, and they'll send you to these amazing gardens. But I'll pop some video. That's going to be what my new outro is. Oh, thank you, Not Cryptic. For the super chat and $5. Not Cryptic says, I told my daughter to wear glasses during math. It improves division. You know, it's what's amazing to me about that super chat is that Not Cryptic seems very, very similar to cryptic. I'm just saying, I have a sense of camaraderie between the two, even though they're not. One is not cryptic and one is cryptic. So there you go. Thank you, Cryptic, for the super chat. Hey, people, I gotta go. Thanks for being here. If you would like to come back sometime, I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 1500 GMT for my friends around the world who do not use American time. And also, if you'd be so kind, make sure you hit the like button. It is, it's right down there somewhere. It's like, is it over there? Is it over here? I don't know where the like button is, but it's that thumbs up. If you click the thumbs up before you go, before you start clicking away, don't leave yet. I'm not done. Click the like button. I see 53 people here still and 30 likes. Pop that up there. Let's get that ratio up. And if you really like what we do, oh, by the way, share the stream. If you're watching on a replay, put a comment in the comment section so that I know you were here. And what does it? Oh, thank you. And if you really like the show, you can always do super chats and donations through the description, the links in the description down below. Streamlabs, either by a PayPal or credit card, also Venmo and Cash App, and that's greatly appreciated. Thank you for all the people who threw out some super chats today. Cryptic, Maddie, what the hell's going on my screen here? Let me fix this so I can see you. Cryptic Maddie as X-Bubba Hotep. X-Bubba Hotep is the superstar donor of the day. Thank you, sir. And everyone who's been participating in the chat, I hope you had a fun time. If you're lurking, thanks for lurking. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is P. Dawg Knight. And I'm out of here. Have a great rest of your Labor Day. Bye-bye. Hey, this is P-Dawg Knight, and thank you for watching today on the P-Dawg Knight Channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comments section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P-Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here.